Most people don't aim to be average. They slowly drift into it. No one wakes up and says, I want a small life. They say, I just need stability. I just need balance. I just need peace. And that sounds reasonable. That's how average wins. Average doesn't present itself as failure. It presents itself as safety. No big risks, no big embarrassment, no big expectations, no big pressure. Just manageable effort, manageable goals, manageable dreams. And manageable dreams never threaten identity. That's why average is comfortable. It doesn't demand reinvention. It doesn't require public risk. It doesn't expose weakness. It allows you to blend in, and blending in feels secure. Humans evolved to survive through belonging. Standing out meant danger. So when you try to rise above average, your nervous system reads it as threat. Higher standards mean higher exposure. If you aim high and fail, people see it. If you stay average and stagnate, no one questions you. Average protects ego. It keeps expectations low enough that underperformance feels normal. That's the trap. Most people don't avoid greatness because they're incapable. They avoid it because greatness requires visibility. Visibility requires vulnerability, and vulnerability threatens comfort. Average aligns with the group. When your effort matches everyone else's effort, you're invisible. Invisible people don't get criticized. They also don't get exceptional results. Average is socially rewarded. You're not doing too much. You're not obsessed. You're not intense. You're reasonable. Reasonable effort, reasonable income, reasonable ambition. But reasonable never compounds into remarkable. Average is built on subtle compromises. You don't quit your goals. You lower them. You don't stop trying. You try less intensely. You don't abandon discipline. You make it flexible. Flexible discipline becomes inconsistent discipline. Inconsistent discipline becomes predictable mediocrity. The psychology is simple. Your brain values predictability over potential. Average is predictable. You know roughly what you'll earn. You know roughly how you'll live. You know roughly how you'll be perceived. Predictability feels like control, but it's an illusion. Because while life feels stable, growth has stopped. And stagnation feels calm until regret arrives. Average avoids confrontation with limits. If you never push yourself, you never discover where you break. Not knowing feels safer than risking disappointment. Many people protect the fantasy of their potential. If you try fully and fail, the fantasy dies. If you stay average, the fantasy survives. I could have done more. I just didn't want to. I wasn't really trying. That story protects identity, but protection without proof is weakness. Average minimizes friction. No early mornings, no social separation, no visible discipline. You remain relatable. Relatable is comfortable, but comfort and growth rarely coexist. Average creates invisible ceilings. You stop competing with your potential. You compete with your environment. And if your environment is average, exceeding it feels unnecessary. That logic kills ambition quietly. Average recalibrates standards downward. You normalize procrastination. You normalize inconsistency. You normalize stagnation. It sounds balanced. It keeps you stuck. Average sedates urgency. No crisis, no desperation, no decisive action. Crisis creates urgency. Average creates delay. Delay compounds. Years pass without catastrophe, but also without breakthrough. Most people don't lose dreams in one event. They lose them in slow compromise. Average is not loud failure. It's slow surrender. Surrender of standards. Surrender of intensity. Surrender of ambition. And gradual surrender feels rational. Average maintains social harmony. When you exceed your circle, you create tension. People don't like mirrors. They prefer sameness. So average preserves comfort, but harmony without progress becomes stagnation. Average reduces cognitive dissonance. Aim low, achieve low. No internal conflict. Aim high, achieve low. Pain. To avoid pain, many lower the aim. It feels strategic. It's protective. Protection can become prison. Average lives are manageable, predictable, comfortable. But predictable comfort rarely produces extraordinary outcomes. The opposite of average isn't talent. It's sustained friction, repeated exposure, uncomfortable growth. Friction is the engine of progress. Remove friction, remove transformation. Average disguises itself as maturity. I don't need to chase big things. I'm content. I don't need more. Sometimes that's truth. Often it's fear rationalized. True contentment feels strong. Average disguised as contentment feels defensive. Average doesn't hurt. That's why it spreads. But it doesn't elevate either. Elevation requires risk. Risk requires discomfort. Discomfort feels unsafe. So average feels safer. But safety without growth becomes stagnation. And stagnation becomes regret. Most people don't fail loudly. They fade quietly into routines that feel stable, into habits that feel manageable, into lives that feel fine. Fine is the most dangerous word. Fine means no urgency. Fine means no pressure. Fine means no evolution. Average avoids exposure. Exposure is where transformation lives. Average protects you from judgment. It also protects you from excellence. Excellence is uncomfortable, not because it's hard, because it's visible. Most people choose safety over visibility. That's why average wins. Not because it's better, because it's easier to live with. But easy now often means regret later. And regret is heavier than discomfort.